unstructured video, this one. I'm just giving my overall thoughts on Manchester United, how I think they've been doing so far this season, because it's been bad. It's been bad. If you're a Manchester United fan in the nicest way possible, and I cannot stress that enough, there is no bias coming in here. It's just purely what I see on the pitch and what I believe is happening. It's bad. It's so disjointed. Up front, they look like there's nothing, there's no energy. No one's committing. And watching that Crystal Palace game or the highlights even, it's sad to see. Now, I did a video last week discussing Ten Hag, and I do think he should be given more time, but it's coming to a point now where you've got to think, is it working? And I'm not suggesting sack the manager, because what good does that do? We've seen it so many times. United sack the manager, bring someone in, doesn't work, rinse and repeat, and it's just. But in the similar fashion to all the other managers they've hired, he had that one season at the beginning. It looked like it was going really, really well. There's a shot of adrenaline. They got up to third, I believe, or fourth even. Won the Carabao Cup, got to the FA Cup final, and it's just dropped this season. And I am not qualified to speak above management. I do not have the extensive knowledge, the likes of your Adam McCullers and your Mark Goldbridges. I don't know enough about the inner workings of the club to discuss it. All I can talk about is what I see on the pitch. And what I see on the pitch is a lack of leadership, a lack of energy, a lack of commitment to win the ball and get at the opposition. United up front just look like they have nothing. And when your top in the past 8 games is Casemiro with 4 goals, you know that there's a problem there. Not suggesting by any means him scoring is bad, but you've just signed Højlund for 75 million. You've got Marcus Rashford, who last season was world class. He tore the league apart. He tore every team he faced apart almost. You've got Bruno Fernandes, who's arguably one of the best central attacking midfielders we've seen in a long time in the Premier League. And it's not working. Something is rotten at the club. And obviously, the ownership comes into effect. The ownership's the big talking point, but we need to talk about the tactics. They're so standoffish. And we saw it in the Arsenal game. They played like they were under Solskjaer, counter-attacking football when they have players capable of manoeuvring the ball around the back. Amrabat's just come back into the team. He's playing at left back. Mason Mount's come in. He doesn't look anywhere near as good as he did when he was at Chelsea. I mean, 2 seasons ago, he had an XG of 8.0. He's on 0.1 this season. He's yet to get a goal or assist, and he's not had a game where he looks good. Arguably the Carabao Cup Palace game, but even so, nothing stand out. You've still got players like Anthony Martial at the club, who should have been gone a long time ago. You've still got players like McTominay at the club. Harry Maguire is still at your team. And when you were playing Arsenal and Harry Maguire and Johnny Evans was your centre-back partnership, albeit due to injury, it was embarrassing. And you should not be at a point where that is your backup partnership. The money that's been spent on the likes of Mason Mount, around £65 million, Onana for around £55 million, they're not positions that need addressing. Are you telling me that the money you spent on Mason Mount couldn't have been used to further develop your back line? Instead, you've had to get Reguilon on loan from Spurs because of injuries. Johnny Evans on a free transfer almost 10 years or over 10 years after he left your club. It's humiliating, and Manchester United deserve better. The fact that your standout player you've signed this summer was arguably a 20-year-old striker from the Danish league says all you need to know for £70 million. £70 million on a 20-year-old, almost unproven striker. And people make the joke of, well, it's Haaland. It's Haaland 2.0. I don't see him scoring as many goals as Haaland did by now. And it's far too early to be judging him. I get that. And he could become a brilliant player. But we said the same about Martial. United need success now. And it's always been that way at Manchester United. You saw it under Alex Ferguson. They brought players in to maintain their lead over the top. They struck while the iron was hot and continued their dominance of the league because they brought in the right players at the right time. They're not doing that anymore. They went through a spell of signing world class players at the time. It didn't work. They've gone through a spell of bringing young talents, develop them, see if they work. They're not working. So what do? You sign players who are necessary for the position that you need help in. The back line. Don't sign a goalkeeper when you had De Gea at the club and you released him. De Gea was making mistakes, but would he have made the mistakes Onana's made? And Manchester United brought Onana in as a ball playing goalkeeper because they want to maintain possession. They're not doing that. And when they are, there's nothing up front anyway to score. So what's the point of doing it? United can be got at. And when Amrabat is having to play left back, and that's resulting in you losing 1-0 against Crystal Palace, not to say that it's all solely on him, but it's a huge part of it. And when Amrabat, your now backup left back, when Johnny Evans and Harry Maguire are your backup centre backs, when McTominay is starting most of your games in CDM, it's humiliating. And United deserve better for who they are. And people will say they're the biggest club in England. They still are, technically. But for how long? It's 10 years since the league was last won. It's been longer than that since the Champions League was won. And Carabao Cup wins will only get you so far. And it's great that they won one for them. And an FA Cup final was outstanding. But how far are they going to get with that? They can't ride that momentum forever. Now, Ten Hag needs to be backed. I have said this from day dot, and I will still say it now. I do think he needs to be backed. But there does need to be a level of accountability taken from him. The way he's playing at the moment and the substitutions he makes and the changes he makes during games, he's so stubborn at times. And I have a friend who's a United fan, and he said himself, look, doesn't matter what happens in the game, doesn't matter if we're winning 3-0, losing 3-0, Ten Hag before the match will lay out this player's coming out at this time, this player's coming out at this time, and regardless of what's happening in the game, that is what will happen. That's not the way to do it. We saw Liverpool against Spurs. When we went to 9 men, everything changed. Obviously, we lost 2 players. That's going to happen. But we adapt. We bring on our subs and change the squad based around what's happening on the pitch, not to a regimented schedule before the match. It doesn't work. And Ten Hag needs to really take accountability for the fact that as a manager, your job is to get the best out of your players. Is he doing that? He did it with Rashford last season. Fair enough. He maybe did it with Fernandez, but I'd argue Fernandez's best season was under Solskjaer. Is Ten Hag doing enough to get the best out of these players? Because he's alienated Jadon Sancho in the way he has. Rashford is looking a shell of his former self last season. Onana is making far too many mistakes. Mason Mount looks like a passenger at times and arguably should not be on the pitch at any point if he continues this way. You say Jadon Sancho isn't training well. Surely you can't tell me that Mason Mount in training is looking like a world class player and then all of a sudden getting on the pitch and performing like that after every single game. Make it make sense, Ten Hag. And you owe it to the fans to explain the rationale behind it. Once again, I do think he needs the time. He needs the support. But he wanted these players he brought in and they paid the price they did for them. But that's that's down to Ten Hag's judgment and decision making. It was clear they needed defenders. They should have got more than Johnny Evans and Reguilon. It was clear they needed the CDM. They should have got more than Sofian Amrabat, which took till line day to maneuver through the wires to get to. It's humiliating. And the days are gone of Manchester United being shrewd in the market and signing leaders and brilliant players. They're now signing Mason Mount because Liverpool wanted him. They're now signing Onana because De Gea doesn't want to be at the club anymore. So they're in a panic and find the first ball playing goalkeeper who's for sale. Johnny Evans on a free transfer to try and distill leadership into the club. Johnny Evans wasn't even the leader at Manchester United when he was there the first time because Rio Ferdinand was there, Vidic was there, Rooney was there. It's not working, and there needs to be a serious look at Manchester United's squad. Players like Garnacho want to be there. Players like Hannibal want to be there. These are players who are young, fighting for the badge. And we saw Adwell Medbury when he scored against Brighton, I believe it was. He celebrated like he'd won the World Cup because the passion is there. Not Fernandez just throwing his arms up in the air every few seconds. Not Maguire doing the whole head rub thing every time he makes a mistake. Not Onana having the ball booted at him and then just drop it underneath his body and then get a huff and throw his arms in the air. Passion. Players who want to play for the club. Not this. Thank you very much for watching. This I really did struggle a bit for the topic today. I just United was the one that felt needed to be discussed because even as a Liverpool fan, they deserve better. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe, and I will see you soon.